As a child, I was always a bit anxious. I was smart, social, and even a bit of a leader. I probably would have just seemed to you like any other geeky, excitable kid with unchecked ADHD. I was getting along fine until about the 4th or 5th grade, when social groups began to split and I mostly got left behind. I had a few good friends, so everything was still fine. Still, around this time, I started to have a lot of misunderstanding with both my peers and my teachers. I also started to get bullied, though I didn't always realize that that's what it was, and I often endured unhealthy friendships until they became very stressful and traumatic. I ended up seeing a psychiatrist and therapist for anxiety. That lasted a short time and came to a natural end when I seemed to be getting better. Things were mostly going okay until Thanksgiving of 2016. I had a sudden medical emergency and had to spend a week in the hospital. I recovered medically, but I never recovered emotionally. My energy and motivation levels were almost non-existent, and my anxiety was suddenly through the roof. My parents took me back to my psychiatrist, and I finally started ADHD medicine, then anxiety medicine, and then sleep medication. I also started with a new therapist. Everything would help for a little while, and then I'd crash again. I fell into a deep and scary depression. I missed school for about a month straight. Eventually, my depression and anxiety were so severe and seemed to be treatment resistant. One day, my psychiatrist suggested we try a relatively new genetic test to help determine which medicines would work best for my body type. It turns out I was on the right medicine for me, but I also found out that I have a very common genetic mutation called the MTHFR gene mutation, which I love to call the mother freaking gene mutation. This basically means that my body can't use folic acid correctly, and that means that my serotonin doesn't get to my brain effectively or at all. So I was on the right medicines, but they weren't working because of the genetic interference. Thankfully, there is treatment for this, and when I was on medicine, on the right dose, my body could actually start doing its job. But of course, this isn't a magic wand. My medicine basically just gives me the option to make a choice to get better, and that choice doesn't come naturally or easily after being through such a rough time. Shortly after starting this new medicine and beginning to feel better, I had a really, you have no idea how bad day. I got overwhelmed in a class and melted down at school. Like, imagine being in a tiny room with, like, an entire band that you would find at a bar, and they're all playing with equalizers and all the other stuff all the way up aimed right at your face. That's literally what the situation was. It was reported that I had verbally threatened a classmate. Of course, I got in a lot of trouble, and though I understand that what was happened was serious and unacceptable, I knew I was humiliated, but, you know. Yeah, sorry. I was reading my script, and there's a grammatical error, and that was bothering me. A stressful 2-hour talk with administration left me feeling defeated and filled me with anger. I was required to either leave school or undergo an assessment to determine whether I was a threat to myself and others. It was a rough couple of days at our house. I wanted to choose to leave school with my head down and hide from everyone rather than going back after this huge setback. But something in me decided I wanted to fight back. I took my anger from that meeting and turned it into a spite-fueled determination to finish the year. Yes, I had made a mistake. And yes, it was big and serious and could never happen again. But I was determined to prove that I am a human worthy of a second chance. I am not my grades. I am not my test scores. I am not the sum of all my accomplishments, even if it makes my school look good. By the same logic, I am not my many diagnoses. I am not my disabilities. Throughout the whole process, my mental health team came to the conclusion that I had autism spectrum disorder. All of my life, I was able to mask my symptoms until I became sick and couldn't handle it anymore. It didn't seem like I needed a formal diagnosis at the time because I was doing okay, and we focused more on the anxiety and depression. That was until school. Now I have a diagnosis, and I can explain to people who care to understand who I am as a whole. I am Kylie. I'm living with anxiety, depression, ADHD, PMDD, and autism spectrum disorder. I have good days, moments, weeks, months, whatever. I'm dealing with it better today than I did before, and my story isn't over. It's far from it, but today I believe I'm going to get better. Thank you.